It used to bother me when people would tell me that they didn't believe in God, or question how and why that I believe in a God that I couldn't physically see. And no matter what kind of response I gave them, they seemed to always be skeptical or ready to argue. The reason this bothered me is because I was in a space in my life where I was 100% convinced in my God. You see, I believed that God was everywhere, and even though I had not seen God's face, that I could definitely feel God's presence, and that I could hear God's voice speaking to me. And the questions they would ask weren't unreasonable. As a matter of fact, they were questions that I had asked myself at one point in life. Questions like, if there was a God, why would he allow so much evil? Why does God allow innocent children to die? If the devil is bad, and God created the devil, then why did he do this? Why doesn't God just show himself if he's real so that his people can believe? And I found that one of the biggest and most commonly asked questions almost universally amongst unbelievers was, how could a God who has given us all free will and says that he loves us, then turn around and say that if we do not choose to believe in him, damn us to an eternal hell for all eternity? One of the things that I truly want to express to you in this video is what God revealed to me about people who argue about God's existence or even ask questions. You see, a lot of us who are already believers tend to get frustrated with these people or just chalk them up to being a child of the enemy or even an atheist. But even Timothy himself had to ask God to help him with his unbelief. And if you are listening right now and you're a believer who is impatient and who is doing this, I urge you to stop immediately, because God has revealed to me that people who are so willing to argue about something or even ask these questions, it's easy for us to assume that they're asking these questions simply just to prove that there is no God, and that they're looking for any excuse not to believe. But on the contrary, God says that these people who are willing to put in energy and effort to argue with a believer or even ask these questions may seem as though they are trying to look for proof and evidence that God doesn't exist. But in reality, they are really just lost souls who are desperately wanting a reason to find that God really does exist, to believe that God is real. Why do I say this? I'm glad you asked. You see, I looked up the word atheist, and the definition says a person who disbelieves or lacks belief in the existence of God. Which leads me to my next point. When was the last time that I put in energy or effort to argue about or even ask questions about something that I did not care about or want to believe in? I mean, I don't debate with people about the Easter Bunny, the Tooth Fairy, or Santa Claus. Why? Because I don't believe in them. And for that reason, these things aren't even a part of my daily conversation, nor do I spend time trying to argue with somebody about their non-existence. God revealed to me that we must remain diligent and patient, and that these people must be prayed for, because the reality of the situation is that they are in dark or in the wilderness. And if you're asking yourself, what is the dark or the wilderness? The dark and the wilderness in this case represents a perpetual state of being lost, existing without a purpose. I mean, imagine being lost in a forest without knowing where the nearest road to civilization was, or being shut up in the dark, hoping for the smallest glimmer of light. I mean, sure, somebody can say to you that light exists, but if you've never seen the light or known the light, it could cause you to ask questions or question whether or not this light exists, or become afraid that it doesn't exist at all. My brothers and sisters, the reason I urge you to be patient with these types of people is exactly because of what Jesus tells us about in Matthew chapter 5 and verse 14. You are the light of the world. A city set on a hill that cannot be hid. And for those of you who don't know what that means we have a responsibility. We have a responsibility that for everybody we come in contact with, we provide a light in a dark world. We provide that road for people who are lost in the wilderness. We cannot be weary in well-doing, nor should we become tired or frustrated with doing God's work. You see, for some people, you are the only representation of God that they will get to see. You are their Moses. You are their Abraham. You are their prophet. You are their David. You are their Paul. So you cannot get tired of being the light. In a world full of people who have learned to be gods themselves and lovers of themselves, prideful and boastful, disrespectful, you are the salt of the earth. Without, how can this earth have flavor? We provide flavor for this earth. We are that peculiar and strange thing, that different thing that they are looking for. When everybody else is going right, we choose to go left. When everybody's going left, we choose to go right. We provide a way out. So if you're tired of being this light, my brothers and sisters, I pray for y'all. Do not get mad when these people ask you questions, because it simply should let you know something should be burning inside you to show that God does exist, rather than making you feel like we're increasingly living in a world where people don't believe in God. We should be thriving and having a purpose, a sense of energy that we need to go out and continue to provide light. Does God exist? This is part 1. I need you to like, share, and drop a comment if you want part 2.